Well, first of all, a lot of your viewers would have been told a lot of things about Winston Peters and New Zealand First, but I can tell you most of them have not been true, and most have been put out by my opponents trying to convince the Chinese voter as to what New Zealand First stands for. I know something about China, been there a number of times and at the highest levels, and the similarity of New Zealand First policies with the Chinese people is that in China the policy is China First. They make no bones about it, and I entirely understand, because when you have more than 1.2 billion people and all the problems, economic and social, you have to have a very serious strategy focused on your own people. And New Zealand First is no different. I've been in politics for quite a long time. My party is called New Zealand First, started 23 years ago, and we don't discriminate or care whether you arrived yesterday or like my background 1,000 years ago. If you're here legally, you're entitled to the same protections and defences and opportunities as everybody else. But we do insist, just like in China, that people sign up to our flag, our values, our traditions, and understand them so that we have cohesion and not difference and dispute going into the future. In summation, I look around Asia and I see Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and they all have the same strategy when it comes to their people. Look after their own people first. And by that I mean who's there, regardless of when they arrived. That's the same strategy we have. But we're frequently misdescribed or misunderstood because other people in politics want to push their view rather than to have what you might call a balanced, reasonable debate. The Maori people who first came to this country, their DNA is Chinese. It goes back 5,000 years. We understand that. But like in every country in Asia, it's who got here. And when we say New Zealand First, we mean put our own country's economy, our banking, our investment, our ownership first.
So when you are talking about our people first, you also include this Chinese migrants, right?
Everybody that's here legally
Is included in your policy.
That's right. Well, because if I go to Asia and if I go to China, no one in Asia has New Zealand's immigration policy. What they do, they say we'll need these people because they can bring new skills and be new contributors to our economy. They decide them on that very careful criteria. Here, we are bringing in almost four times the immigration levels of the UK, which led them to leaving the European Union. Far higher than Australia, and it's a big issue there, and far higher than the United States, which is a huge issue there. So in short, what's being confused is a smart, focused, planned immigration policy for what you might call as mayhem. Now look, I can go to restaurant after restaurant after restaurant and I see a whole lot of people and I wonder how did they come here, because where were the skills that were required? And then I do know, in the last 5 years we've brought in over 10,000 chefs. That's more than every restaurant in New Zealand. So what's going on here? And I personally, as a lawyer and as a politician, have been involved in bringing immigrants to this country, but all of whom had a job and a job way into the future. That's what we got now is chaos. As a consequence, rents are going up, young people can't even get decent rentals, or they're paying a huge 60% of their income, can't buy a house. It's all, if you look here, it's like being downtown Hong Kong. Why? Because there's massive roading problems, no trains, hospitals insufficient, schools insufficient. It's a crisis we've got here, and I'm just pointing it out. And I, as someone who's met Lee Kuan Yew and had discussions with him, there's no way that a leader like him, or the leaders of China, would have contemplated that sort of influx of people without some solid planning and infrastructure. Bring people here who we need, not people who need us. All over Asia, that's the number one principle of their immigration. And so it is with New Zealand First. Well, you can't eat your way to wealth. You work your way to wealth. You invest smart and you become wealthy, but you can't eat your way to wealth. So I'm saying to those people, you're right for some, but you're not right for all of them. And I know too many Chinese people who have been here now third generation, and they're as concerned about it as I am. Whether it's Indian, American, Canadian, or wherever they come from, we don't care. But we want to know that they are placed in our economy and that they're contributing. You know, about 35% of the older people in this country that have come in recently have been abandoned by their young. Back in mainland China, back in China itself, an edict went out not so long ago saying to people, young people, if you don't look after your old people, we're going to come for you. How come that's a sound policy in China and not here? And it's terrible to see old people being left by themselves, particularly when they haven't got the language skills and the assistance. And it's a tragedy. Well, for a huge proportion, that argument is not true. If that was true, how come all these people have been abandoned? These older people have been left, whilst their children are shot off to Australia or somewhere else. Park their mother and father up here. That can't be fair. Second, immigration, this is not a retirement home. No other country allows this, so why would we allow that? I can understand why a Chinese a couple would like to bring mother and father in. Well, that's 4 people now, right? That's 4. If they've got a child, that's 5. Plus them, that makes 7. 1 working, 6 not, possibly. How does that work? It doesn't make any sense to sound Chinese logic. It doesn't make any sense to me either. That's not true. They haven't got private insurance. Their parents are going to public hospitals. It's been paid for now by the taxpayer. Taxpayers have built the hospitals 50 years ago, 30 years ago. I know what you're saying, excepting for a whole lot of people, it is not true. And all I'm saying to your viewers is, if I was in mainland China, if I was in Beijing today talking to your politicians, they'd all agree with me, not agree with my opponents. So how come it's different here? Our goal is to get enough support, enough votes to change the economic and social direction of this country and take us being back to where we used to be, at the very top of the economic performance in the world. We used to be there when I was young. We've fallen a long way back. We could be back there again. We've got the resources, we've got the climate, we've got the people, but we haven't got the economic leadership, political leadership either.
So do you think you will be the kingmaker of this election?
I know I never use that phrase. That's what your colleagues in the media keep on saying.
Yes.
And they keep on trying to put words in our mouths. But unless we do get an economic and social change in this country, then there'd be a waste of time having an election. So we're not going to go on doing what we're doing now. We intend to take our resources, focus massively on exports and building our export wealth, because that's how you get really wealthy, improve our tourism outcomes, and give people in this country the equality of opportunity. I can't guarantee equality of outcomes, but if we give people equality of opportunity, then the outcomes will be so much better.
But there are other politicians or other parties who describe you as the bad guy.
Yeah, I know they do. You know why? They're scared of being honest and upfront with the New Zealand people. These people have got their record is political contamination. They have sold out so many of our assets to overseas ownership, and 90% plus of our banking is offshore owned. All the things of added value they have sold out. And so someone like me who comes along and says you're guilty, of course they're not going to like me. But I'm not worried about what they think. In fact, my job is to get rid of them. And I think I will for a lot of them, yes. If it's sound investment that is designed to enhance the wealth of New Zealand and New Zealand employment and exports, it's a good idea. If it's not, it's not. Look at Singapore. In fact, look at China. China doesn't allow people to come in and buy their land. Full stop. And they've got downside more land than we've got. By that I mean, they've even got more land per person than we've got. That's how big China is. In fact, I go out West China, that's 1/6 the size of all of China, only about 20 million people living there. got land and land for everything. But so they understand the value of land. Here, where it's not a big country, my view is the same as the Chinese government's view. We should be very careful about foreign money so that it serves our economy and not someone else's. Right now, we are changing our tax laws because thousands of people came here to dodge their taxes somewhere else. We're not going to allow that in the future either. So when you talk about overseas investment, be careful that you're not talking about an overseas corporate raid, because frequently that's what it is. And the apologists for what's going on just say, oh, it's all good. Really? Where's the evidence? I've been in politics before anybody heard of Trump. So why are they trying to liken him to me? I'm not rude, I'm not nasty, I don't go on tweets. Which part of that looks like me? And plus I haven't got the same haircut.
Yes.
Say that are just stupid. They're silly, they can't even remember yesterday. Donald Trump only started 2 years ago. I was in Parliament in 1978. So which part of that would sound like it's true? But you see how some of my critics are? They say a lot of stupid things, and when you examine them, they don't hold any water. Your viewers will understand this. That trend has been in Asia for the last 3,000 years. The Western world's just catching up. But everywhere in Asia, I see nationalism. Singaporeans proud of Singapore, Malaysians proud of Malaysia, Indonesians proud of Indonesia, Philippines, China, Japan, Korea, they're all proud of their country. So it might be new over in the Western world, but it's not new in Asia. Call it a trend? Well, basically, it's not so much a trend, it's that the economic experiment that's been around for the last 30 years in the Western world is not succeeding. And if you can call that a trend of nationalism, or if you call it just reality, or people waking up, it doesn't really matter what the description is. Yes, there is a change. There's a change in the Western world, and it's coming here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
That's why New Zealand First is on the rise. And they can dismiss it and laugh, but you know, I did predict that the British would leave the European Union, and I did predict that Donald Trump would win. Now let me say this, that doesn't mean I support him or any other campaign, but either Donald Trump is a genius or all his opponents are total idiots. That I was the person in 1997 went to Beijing to sign off the student visa program. Remember? You people won't remember, but I do. And the Chinese leadership and people like Zhu Rongji and the president said to me, Mr. Peters, will you guarantee that when they're educated in New Zealand, you'll send them home? They asked me to make that solemn pledge, and I did. Now what's happened?